All right, welcome everybody. Whoop. Background noise there. Go ahead and mute that. All right, let's try that again. Hopefully everybody had a good Halloween. You didn't steal too much candy from your children. Welcome to this session of Performance Analytics Office Hours. If you don't know me yet, my name is Tom Pasek. I'm a technical product marketing manager here at ServiceNow, working with our performance analytics team. I'm going to take a quick minute just to make sure everybody understands the format of the session and what we're hoping to accomplish, and then we'll get into the content for the session. So first of all, we're trying to make sure that you're getting the most out of, oh, I'm not advancing slides here. Let's try this again. There we go. Hoping to make sure you get the most out of performance analytics at your organization. We typically kick off with a quick presentation from our own teams. So we're lucky enough that Olga this week from our Amsterdam team is joining us and giving up some of her dinner hour. So thank you, Olga, for joining. And then after that session, we'll open it up to Q&A. We'll try and focus initially on the topic that was presented, and then we'll kind of transition into more of an open-ended Q&A to get your questions answered. But if there are topics that you think would be useful to cover in these office hour sessions, go ahead and let us know. Would love to get that feedback. You can find my contact info on the community. Just drop me a note via email or post on the community there. And we'll keep building up new topics for future sessions. Everyone does have the ability to ask questions and go off mute. Go ahead and ask. That's a good segue to ask that if you're not currently speaking, please go ahead and remain muted so you're not interrupting our presenters or the other folks asking questions. You can also use the text-based chat in Zoom to ask your questions if you'd prefer. We've got some folks monitoring the text chat that's going on there. Just ask that, please make sure you address the question to everyone as opposed to a specific presenter who might not be looking at that text chat at the moment. That way we can all see what's going on. Maybe situations where we're getting hung up on a technical issue that might be specific to your instance. So please don't be offended if we ask you to go ahead and raise an incident on high, and we can follow up with you offline outside of this meeting. We just want to make sure we get to as many questions as possible in these sessions. We do record these. If you're not comfortable with that or your organization isn't comfortable with that, please go ahead and disconnect. I think I mentioned last week we were planning to convert this session to a Zoom webinar where there'll be a more formal Q&A ability that's in there as opposed to the text chat. We're still planning to make that change, just hasn't happened quite yet, so sit tight on that. Again, hopefully there shouldn't be anything that you need to do on your end. The URL should continue to work. Speaking of recordings, if you haven't seen, this link has a playlist on YouTube of all of our previous recordings. We've also added a summary link on the community to this, the post for this event. If you scroll down a bit, you'll see a list of all the previous sessions. There's a quick summary of what was presented, the deck that was shared, and then a link to the actual video recording. So it's a good way to catch up on previous sessions that you might have missed. And last thing for me here, I know I've had this up for a few weeks now, but we'd love to hear your stories about how you're using performance analytics in your organization. We have Knowledge 2020 coming up in May. So if you have a story that you think that you might be interested in sharing with other folks at the conference, please get in touch with me. Would love to kind of understand a little more about what you're doing with performance analytics and what it has done for your organization. And in a little bit, we'll have a formal call for speakers where we can get some of those stories submitted and kind of move it through the system. And that is it for me. Let's get to the content for this week. So welcome, Olga, who's going to cover dashboard sharing and security for us. So Olga, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Let me share my screen. So my name is Olga Revkina. I'm a senior product manager in the performance analytics and reporting team based in Amsterdam. So today we will cover the responsive dashboard security and permissions. Before we start, the short introduction. So responsive dashboards were introduced back in Istanbul where they were available for all the new customers. And since New York, they were automatically enabled upon the upgrade to all the existing customers. And they're, of course, a great alternative for the old non-responsive dashboard, but they also could be a great alternative for your organization to also replace the home pages so that you have a single place for all your analytics. And it has a multiple benefits. Of course, the user experience with easy to create drag and drop flexible layout. It allows multi-tabs, so you can really organize information on your pages in the better way. It has better optimized performance compared to how the home pages works. You will load only the widgets which is on the visible part of your dashboard. So when you have a lot of information placed, it's really helpful because you can get to the most important information quick. And it's really one of the important things. It's easy sharing, and we will cover more about this during the sessions, all this way how you can share the dashboards. So let's go into it. Let's start with the permission. So the basic one is the creation permission. So who can create a responsive dashboard? Generally, any internal users can create a new dashboard by default. And this is a dashboard with a role. So there's a check on the has role in the glide. And it is controlled by the read ACLs on the PA dashboard record, meaning that the admin of the instance can adjust this logic. And if you want, if you need it in your organization so that you can disable this ACL, your admin can disable this ACL and create a new one, and you can limit who can create dashboards if needed. Sharing. So who can share the dashboards? There were a lot of questions about that before. So generally, by default, all users can share their own dashboard. So if they create a dashboard, they by default can share it. And they can share it with users and user groups. Then for the PA admins and PA power users, they can also additionally share the dashboard where they have edit rights. And they have also additional possibility to share it not only with users and groups, but also with the roles. And admins and dashboard admins can share any dashboard in the system, so they have full access to manage dashboards regardless who created it. And of course, they can share with users, groups, and roles. So the main reasons we do not allow regular users to share it with the roles is to avoid oversharing. So to keep it more contained, it's limited to the users and user groups. For the possibility to adjust the logic, so the admin can restrict to specific roles who can share the dashboard. So if you don't want all users to be able to share their own dashboard, you can specify a list of roles in the dashboard properties right over here. So it's like comma-separated list, and you will need to have at least one of the specified roles to be able to share your own dashboards. And also the list of users, when you start sharing with your list of users and user groups, by default, it's a full list of active users and groups. It's not a secure search, it's direct database search, meaning you will see even those users who might be you might be restricted by the business rules or ACLs. There's a simple settings. If you want to apply the secure search, you can check this box, and then it will go through the glide secure search, meaning that it will check all your business rules, all your ACLs, and all the rest. And both these properties are available since Madrid. You can find it on your in system properties and dashboard properties. For the ways to share dashboards, there's two main ways to share dashboards. The most common and most widely used is to share dashboard directly. So anybody can create a dashboard, and on the dashboard there is the share button, and they will be able to just add the list of users, groups, or roles who can view or edit this dashboard. The other way, which is available for the PA Power users and PA admins, is to share via dashboard groups. If you have at least PA Power user permissions, you will be able to assign dashboard to the dashboard groups. And if you didn't share the dashboard directly, your permissions of the view access to this dashboard will be managed on the groups. This is convenient if you have a lot of dashboard which is shared with a specific group and you want to have a central place to manage those permissions. You can do it this way. Important to know that once you start sharing dashboard directly, your group permissions do not apply anymore. So it's either directly or through the group. So it cannot be both. And another interesting point is if you need the extra level of security, for instance, you want to prevent users by incidental sharing on the sensitive information on the dashboard level, you can use restrict role settings. It's on the dashboard record page. When you create dashboard, you will have the settings over there, and this will provide an extra requirement. So in addition, so you still need to share dashboard either through the groups or directly, but in addition to those roles or groups you shared with, everybody who have access to this dashboard will have to have one of the specified roles here to be able to access. So it's an additional permission. Okay, so that's it for the slide. So let's just go to the system to show a little bit more about it. So first is about, as you know, that by default, like when you log into the systems, you will have the home pages. If you have edit rights to this home page, you will be able to convert it to the dashboard. Once all the needed home pages are converted to dashboards, you can, as a user, easily go to the settings and switch your home to be a dashboard. Once it's done, every time you log in, or if you go to your through your logo or through the home icon, you will go to the last visited dashboard instead of last visited home page. Important to know that the home page is not available anymore, so it's kind of a switch to, if you want to go back to the home page, you have to enable it again and take it. So it's recommended to convert everything and then switch all from the home pages to the dashboards. When you go to the self-service dashboards in your menu, you will land to the dashboard overview. And this is also one of the benefits, like it provides you the easy way to access to your dashboards. So by default, you will see all your recent dashboards, but you can go to the one you own or to all dashboards. Right away, when you see each card would represent a dashboard, you will see your access rights. So I was made by Isaac nicely an admin on this instance, so I have edit rights for all of the dashboards, but otherwise you will also can see the owner or the viewer for some dashboards. So once you go to the dashboard here, there's the sharing permission. So if you ever have any problems with the permissions, like you want to know who has access to this dashboard, or you have problems that a user do not have access to the dashboard, you want to know what could be wrong, the first place you have to go is to this sharing panel. So just open the dashboard and go to the sharing panel. If you have just a list of the items here, so that means that the dashboard is shared directly and only those users, groups, or roles will have access to it. You can modify it if you want to change it by opening. You can see more details. you can switch the level of access this role has to the dashboard, or you can remove access for the specific role or users from the dashboard. If you go, let's take another example. If you go to the problem overview dashboard, here on the sharing, you will see the dashboard has not been shared with you directly. So you have this nice message that it will indicate that group permissions are applied. Because this dashboard is belong to a group, you will see that it's still users have access to it. It doesn't mean that nobody have access to it. And you can easily click the link over here, and it will bring you to the specific dashboard group, and you will see which roles have access to this. So this means that ITIL users, problem task analysts would have access to this dashboard. Also, one note that all the dashboards which are shared via dashboard groups, automatically PA power users and PA admins will have access to them as well, because PA power users and PA admins automatically have access to all dashboard groups, unless you change the PA dashboard view permissions in the ACL level. So what about the restrict role? So if a dashboard is restricted to a specific role, let's go ahead and make this dashboard restricted. You go to the dashboard properties, and you can restrict. Let's say that you need to have to be a project manager to be able to role to be able to access this dashboard. Once you go back to the dashboard, on the sharing panel, you will see right away that this dashboard is restricted to specific roles. So this is indication for you that it's not enough just to have those permissions which are specified in the dashboard group in this instance. You really need to, in addition to that, to have a project manager role. And again, so now in this case, you can see that it's permissions who can access is taken from the dashboard group permission. It's again this ITIL users and problem manager, I remember, or whoever role was specified. But in addition, they would need to have a project manager role to have access to it. And if I would change the permission and share this dashboard directly, let's say I would share it with ITIL user and software manager group. So only the ITIL user will only have access to it if he would have the project manager role, and also all the users within the software manager group will only have access to it if they have a project manager role. And another thing, so when you share in the dashboard, you can choose, so by default, the notification will be sent to all the users from this group and to the ITIL users to notify them that this dashboard was shared with them. So in this case, it's nice to add some message which will be added to the email. Or you can alternatively just to uncheck the box, and then there's no email notification will be sent. And again, here you can specify the level of access if it's a view or edit. So you can see what's in done. So it's no more group permissions applied. We only using the dashboard level permissions with a restrict role. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. So it's like, let me know if there's any questions, if there's something online.
Yeah. Thank you, Olga. So there are a couple of questions raised. So the first one is from Dima. Does a report need to be published to be visible on the dashboard?
Yeah, so reporting has its own permissions. So whenever you go to a report, let's go to one of them, you have its own sharing permissions. So this one is visible to all SNC internal users. So to be able to for users to be able to view report on the dashboard, it's not enough to just share the dashboard. You would need to see share each report individually. You can either share it or make it public. So if it's public, if report is published, it will be enough as well. Everybody will have access to it, or it can be just shared similar way to the roles or to the user group. So it will not automatically get shared by sharing the dashboard. So if you share the dashboard and you did not share the report, let's, for example, so you will just have a message on once opening the dashboard, user will see a message that this report has not been shared with you. But he will see all the other reports on this page which were shared with him.
Yeah, on top of that, Brandley answered to the question as well about publishing reports. When you publish a report, as Brandley mentioned, it is accessible to everyone having the URL, even if they do not have a ServiceNow login. So you have to be a bit careful. Don't publish all your reports. If you want to add them in dashboards, just make use of the sharing functionality of the reports.
Yeah. Yeah, that's indeed true, because if you publish reports, you mostly do it to maybe embed it to some external sites that it doesn't need require to log into the system. It has to be done with some care.
Yeah. Next question: is it possible to allow the ability for all general users without PA admin or PA power user role? Users to add or remove PA content to dashboards they have created or given the permissions to edit?
Yeah, it is possible. So if you can add to give everybody access to add PA visualizations, it would so there would be some modification required of who can see PA widgets here in the view, and the view access to the PA widget itself. So by default, it's indeed a PA power user role is required, but with the modification of the ACLs, it's possible to give wider access. It is important to. Yeah, is it a question?
Well, it's not the ACL. It's if you modify this widget to add the other roles.
So I think it's both. It's also for the viewing to be able to. Yeah, so to be able to see here the possibility to add performance analytics, you go to the in the system you are to the widgets. And when you go to the performance analytics, you will just remove those roles. Just need to elevate your permission rights, and then you don't need to have those permissions. But you need to be very careful in the way, because for the PA widgets, there's no separate sharing permissions. So if you have multiple applications like HR and IT, you might not want automatically all the IT users to have access to all the pre-created widgets by the HR. So, but if it's not a concern and you don't have this concern on the access to the PA score information, then that's technically it is possible.
And you may just want to add a new role. Rather, if you remove them, everyone will see it, like you see for these other things. But you may just want to create a new role of PA widget adder, and then assign that to the people you want to, right? If that's all your ITIL users or all your HR users, so you still have control, and it's not everybody, but many more people that can't create a widget but can add it.
Yeah.
Okay. Then there is a question from Brandley, which will come back to it. I just want us to finish with the questions related to dashboards. And Brandley, I will answer your questions right after. There is a question from Thomas asking if, they would like, in short, to add content blocks in the dashboards, but that requires an additional role, which is content admin. So the question is if there is any other role that allows the users actually to add content blocks in dashboard. And at the moment,
at this moment, because the content block, those permissions are a little bit on the deeper level, so there's no easy way to give other users access to create content block.
I thought the users can add them, they just can't create them.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's mostly like if it's HTML, you would want to really to create it. Yeah.
True. Okay. Next question is: if I'm the owner of one dashboard, what is the minimum role required for me to share it with anyone else?
So as I mentioned, by default, you don't need any role. So if you have rights to create dashboard, you can share it with any user or any groups in the system.
Yeah. Next question is, one of the main complaints I hear about dashboards versus home pages is that they do not have a refresh interval capability. Is there any plan to have that feature at some level on dashboards in the future?
Yeah, so for the dashboards, it's indeed that the home pages had this out-of-the-box possibility to auto-refresh. It did cause a lot of issues because it was available for all users, and all users were users of the home pages. So it was causing quite a lot of load on the database when simultaneously thousands of the home pages were refreshing. That's why it's like intentionally was not added to the dashboards. So currently there's a good use case, of course, for auto refresh when you use it on the big monitors in the call centers or some other shared screens where you need real time. So recommendation currently is to use a plugin to install it. We were also looking for the more if you use more like single score widgets. There's a real-time capability, but we understand that it's limited to some type of widget. So we're generally looking to either if there will be a way to add to extend the real-time capabilities, because then it will be ideal, of course. But for meanwhile, so it's in the coming releases, there's no like plan to add this auto refresh to the dashboard. So the recommendation for now is just to use some browser plugin which would refresh the page for you.
And there's an article on the community that walks through that use case, how to set it up, and how to execute
Adam
that if you want to.
Thank you very much, Adam, for it.
You got to plug yourself, right?
Yep. Okay. I think I'll take a small break here to answer the question from Brandley, because I see quite a lot of questions coming, so that we won't leave it unanswered. So Brandley is asking a question. So regarding OLAs, they would like to capture how much time each individual, at the moment they capture the assignment group duration, so how much time each assignment group spends to solve an incident, but they would like to know on individual level. So the functionality you are asking, Brandley, is created, I think, 1 or 2 releases ago. It's called SLA Breakdown. I'm going to post in the chat the URL from our docs. There you can define the fields that will be captured. So it's a functionality similar to metrics. But it collects the percentage of the OLA or the SLA that you defined. So it will, if you define it, for example, to capture assignment group and assignee, you can see even in the same assignment group how much time was spent per individual, so that you will know how long it took for each individual to the percentage of the SLA that it was assigned to him. And I think that will answer your question. I'm going to post the URL as soon, in a few seconds. And then you mentioned SLA break doesn't have enough granularity. If it isn't transferred with, doesn't track. It requires a change in SLA in order to track changes.
I can clarify if I don't know if we're allowed to talk or not, but.
Yeah,
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So the issue we have with SLA Breakdown is that as far as we can see, we can't use it to track OLAs specifically for an individual team because as far as I can tell, it looks like it doesn't, when we tried to implement it, it doesn't track changes where the assignment group stays the same, but the assigned to user changes. So for example, if somebody's going out of the office and the incident is passed to someone else on the same team, it looks like it only tracks changes when you change assignment group or when the actual SLA record itself would change in those instances. And that, unfortunately, doesn't fit our use case. It also doesn't appear to capture the data as often as we expected it to.
I thought there was a setting for that about what level when you configure the SLA breakdown, you configure, do you want it to track what fields do you want it to track? Although I'm not positive about that. I believe it's supposed to do that.
Okay, I know we have a high, at least in my group, because we have so many OLAs that we keep active right now. I mean, at any given time, because of incident source, priority, and assignment group, we have about 200 OLA records that are being used on these incidents. When we looked into trying to implement SLA breakdown, it didn't look like it had the scope that we needed to be able to handle that. But maybe I need to take another look.
I'm fairly certain there is some configuration on what you want to track. So if you turn it on, I think it works. But I have to look.
I just shared my screen, Adam. So this is an out-of-the-box SLA breakdown definition where you define actually the fields that you are interested in. So you have to specify in your breakdown the assignment group and the assigned to, and that should actually give you the desired result.
Okay. And this will use the built-in engine, and it would be able to be used on OLAs specifically as opposed to just the overall incident SLA?
Yes, theoretically here in the list, when you define your SLA definition, you need to assign this breakdown definition to be part of it, and that's how it appears here in the related list. So in our SLA definitions, okay, I will pick up one now. As you can see here, as a related list, there is an SLA breakdown definition. You need to add that definition in each of your OLAs so that it will start using the new functionality.
Okay.
Okay.
So if that doesn't work, then you should open up a case on high. But we think it should work.
I think the first time we presented the SLA breakdown definitions, when I tested it, it was working. Maybe there's something that needs to be tested in your instance. So yeah, if it doesn't work, then please create a case, and our support engineers will be able to help you.
Okay, I have one last question about this functionality. So it looks like this looks a lot like the PA interface. Is this something I can also use reporting to be able to report on, or would I only be able to use PA widgets and associated stuff in order to be able to show that data?
Oh, you can use both PA and reporting on it. These are data that are stored in the platform in a specific table, so all you have to do is just report out of that table. As any other table, as you have the metrics, you'll have this breakdown SLA records.
Cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And now we can continue with the rest of the questions. Okay, so the question for this was answered. I'm sorry. Okay, so when reports are shared to all and people have access to the dashboard it is on, they have access to alter the report, correct? Is there a way to go around this so the users can view the report on the dashboard but not have the ability to alter it?
So the permission of the report is a bit different. So the report, by default, when you share report with all, it would depend if you are So if you just report user or like ITIL users, you will only have access to view this report. You will not have access to edit this report. If the report is shared with a group, you will be able to edit this report if you have report group permissions. So it's like different. But generally, users with report viewer or just ITIL role, whenever the reports are shared with them, they cannot edit them. They can only edit their own reports. And we can share the link with more details about how this view or edit permissions work to the chat.
Next question is, what is the best way to eliminate the PA viewer role from a certain group? They still need ITL access, but we don't want them to access all of our global dashboards. I believe PA viewers inherit it by ITL.
ITIL by default do not have the PA viewer.
I don't think we have out of the box the ITL role having the PA viewer role. I'm just double checking in my instance, as you can see. Well, I went to the wrong table. I'm sorry about this. User role. But either way, even if you add it, yeah, you can see here there is no PA viewer role in the ITL role. So that is not the case out of the box. So what you want to do is just to remove that role from ITL users. So if somehow you provided that role, I mean, what you can do, first of all, understand where that role was provided to all of your ITL users. And in order to do that, just pick up one user that has the list of the roles that can be assigned to them. And based on the groups and the roles that he has, you have to understand how the configuration is. It seems like that you configured it like that. That's why the PA viewer role is inherited across your users. So you need to investigate if there is a group that the users are a member of, and that group contains the PA viewer role, or there is another role that gives access to all, that inherits the PA viewer role. So I think it is a bit of investigation that needs to be done on your instance itself to understand where that role comes from. And if you are not able to identify that, maybe you can reach out to Hi, and our support will be able to assist you with that. Next question is, where is the best place to post suggestions and wishes for reporting and PA? Could this be its own category on the forum where users can vote for the suggestion? Well, Adam, I think you are there.
I think the new ideation product was launched for customers who can log, and I believe performance analytics and reporting is there. Yes, it is.
So the answer is yes. That's a great idea. Go to the community and we'll have it there right now.
No, we have a new idea portal, Adam. I think it's live for 10 days or something like that. You can post your idea on the idea portal, and if more customers vote on your idea, then it will go up in the list. So product managers will review those ideas. And most likely it will be implemented. Hopefully it should be implemented.
Okay.
Yeah, please let us know what you guys would like to see.
Yes. Next question is from Ed. What role would you recommend to create content blocks? Would PA admin normally be acceptable versus admin? Well, Ed, that's a bit related to how security works in your organization. The role is there, so if you want to have only specific type of users that you want to allow them to create content blocks, then I would suggest creating a group and then provide to that group the content admin role, and then add all the users, because not all PA admins might be able to create content blocks. So you don't want to give that access even to all your PA admins. So I would create a group, give the role content admin to that group, and add all the users that should have access and have the knowledge also to create content blocks in that. And that way it will be much easier for your admin to understand who has access and who doesn't have access. It makes it easier for maintenance also. Are there any plans to allow formula indicators to be real-time? That is a very interesting question. So, okay, at the moment only automated indicators can be real-time. So formula indicators, that is a bit tricky. If you think of it, if you have a formula indicator, and in the formula itself you can use multiple other formula indicators, and those formula indicators at some point lead to an automated indicator. So that automated indicator, if it is not real time, then we will not be able to get the value. But at the same time, there is an issue with scripted indicators or scripted breakdowns that you might make use of in your automated indicator, which cannot be calculated real time for all the records. And at the moment, there are no plans to do that at the moment because of some technical issues as well. Next question is from Wade. There is a lot of out-of-the-box content that have no demo data. What would you recommend if I just need some data to see how they look? Wade, most of our out-of-the-box content, yes, we do not ship data because you might install your out-of-the-box content in your production instance. And for sure, we don't want to add data in a production instance. And that is the reason why we don't have demo data. So if you want, but in your non-production environment, all the plugins, for example, if you install HR, there are some records created out of the box. So they might not be thousands of records or millions of records, but there will be some records so that you can use them to collect and then have your demonstration. And but if you want to have more, because I suppose you want to do presentations, if I understand correctly, or my assumption is correct, then you might need to prepare some to make sure that you have some data when you are demoing our product.
And with a lot of it, you want to look at the documentation. Not everything has it, but we are certainly, all the new content packs should have screenshots of all the dashboards and the reports and good descriptions. That wasn't true a few releases ago, but there's been a lot of effort to make sure that if you look at the documentation for that content pack, you should have a good understanding of if it's something that's going to be useful for you or not, right? If it answers your specific questions.
Yeah. So next question is from Phil. Is there a way to make a service account user as the owner of a report instead of me? So I create many reports used by others on their dashboards, and if I delete them from my reports listing, or I win the lottery, I wish you that, Phil, they will go away from their dashboards. I'd like to assign ownership to our generic users, ServiceNow.user. So when you create, what I would suggest you, Phil, is, okay, for the number of reports that you created so far, there is only one way. You have to change the owner, the one that created the records. But from now on, instead of creating everything under your account, I would suggest you use that account that you created, and you create all those reports based on that account, so that you can share it based on that, using the ServiceNow.user that you mentioned. And that would be easier because you won't base the whole reporting functionality based on a user that might actually be deactivated. Because
how can I change the reports that currently exist in my name?
Yeah, that would require, well, it depends on the number of the reports. It might not be, well, if there are many, if there are more than 100 or 200, probably you'll have to script it. Otherwise, you are able to do it through the list if you have the admin role.
Well, but the reports don't have an owner, right? So you're just talking about the permissions. You want to give them the permissions and take you off?
No, they wouldn't know how to do that. That's the problem.
Created by field.
It's the created by user that I think.
Created by user doesn't do anything, does it? I mean,
some permissions, some ACLs work based on the created by. And there's actually one more we are using now instead of together with the created by, starting I think from Carta or
yeah, I don't remember that release.
So you'd want to list, edit it, or script it to change the created by user and fake it.
Exactly. Yeah.
not just put by them.
Can you change it in the list? Like, can you change Adam Stout there to a different name?
You have to allow list editing on this type of field. That's the only thing that you have to change the platforms, because the type, we have a system property that allows you to list edit specific based on the field type. So you have to add the reference or the string field to be edited.
So it's possible, but you have to tweak the behavior, and you have to be careful in list editing this reports, because there are fields in there that do some special stuff.
Yeah. For a dashboard, I can change the owner of a dashboard easy. It'd be nice to do the same with the reports.
True. We'll note it down and we'll forward your comment to our product managers.
And you can post that as an idea in the ideal portal as well. So get everybody else to vote it up.
Yep. Thank you.
So next question. I'm sorry, I just scrolled down a bit more and now I have to go back. So how can users identify the impact of CSDM to the current out-of-the-box content? I will need a bit more of a context here, I'm afraid.
And with the CSDM stuff in general, I think we'll look for some more information about that coming out as CSDM and CSDM2 expand, and the products will have more guidance about how do we transition, particularly the out-of-the-box content, to take advantage of it, or what you need to do. But that is we're part of that initiative. As all the applications embrace CSDM, reporting and PA will have better content about how to take advantage of that. They're not in isolation. Does that answer your question enough? There's no specific silver bullet at this point.
Okay, we had a follow-up question about if there is any kind of data generator. I would suggest you to look in our store. You might find some applications that can help you generate data there.
I believe there might be one in Share, not in the store, but in Share.
Okay. Ryan had also a follow-up question about the content blocks that because many of the content blocks include a conditional scripting component, even the static HTML one. Our development team is pretty hesitant to give that out to anyone. Any suggestions on how to restrict the scripting component so the community can use safely? Yeah, you can restrict access to a specific field based on role, so you can create ACLs on that table and make sure that only specific roles have access to it. So the rest of the users that do not have that role will not have that option to select the fields, or you can even create views that do not include those fields that you don't want the end users to have.
I think with this...
Sorry.
I was going to say, with this one, you can expand content admin. You could have a separate role, so you could create some of those and do those things. I think we're going to do a session on this at Knowledge. It's not locked in, but I think we'll add this to our custom interactive filters one. The other alternative I've seen is by creating a new system widget that just does static HTML. You create a new table with static HTML things in it only. You create a new system widget for that, and then you can give that role out. So you kind of create your own CMS that is just HTML. That's just headers for those, to make it a very safe and separate and controlled. So it's absolutely possible, but it requires a little bit of development to create that isolation.
True. And with that, I think this was the last question, unless I missed something, but I think I went through them, all of them. So are there any other questions?
I wanted to make a plug as we're going through here. If you've been to the community, so you'll notice that that our community is not the performance analytics and reporting community, but the analytics, intelligence, and reporting community. So that way we're on the first on the list, which is where we should be. And when you go there, you should see a new posting. Isaac, can you jump to the community really quickly? There's a few posts pinned to the top of ours. So we have the office hours posting, which I'm assuming have all found. We have the training information. And another new post that we put in there was an index of everything else. You see it there, the power of the community. So we've gone through, I think, 10 years of community, of all the reporting and PA articles, and indexed them and listed them in there. If you can click, if you click on that, this is about reporting. There's a page for performance analytics. Lots of great information in here with the keywords and what they come from. So this was all there before. If you search for it, it's there. But we know sometimes it's easier just to browse. So if you're looking for some light reading, I want to say there was 100, 150 articles and blogs that have been indexed for you so that you can kind of look around to find the right thing for you, and you don't always have to search for it.
Okay, I'm going to provide the URLs in the chat for everyone to make it easy.
Well, and there's, Isaac, if you go up to the main page, it has a link to the 4 or 5 pages we have.
Oh, okay.
But it's there and it's pinned to the top. So quick reference, even if you don't have the link, as long as you can get to the community, you can get to this, and we'll be maintaining it weekly or so. As new articles get posted, you'll see them come up, and we'll add them in here to help you find what you're looking for, even if you aren't sure what the best search terms are.
All right, good stuff. So if anyone's headed to the beach soon, this looks like some good reading to load up on your Kindle, hang out there. I'm not seeing any other questions come in here, so I think we can wrap up a couple minutes early. But thanks again to all of you for joining and for the good questions, and thanks to Olga for joining us and presenting on the dashboard sharing and security. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week.